I'm so happy to have Reverend Savanna Noelle here from Seattle and Amy Steinberg streaming from North Carolina from Asheville. And Amy, I'm going to spotlight you and so you can sing the opening song.
Thank you so much, David, and it's great to be here with you and to be here with all of you at Unity. This song that I wanted to sing for you today was because of the topic that Savanna's going to be speaking on. She's going to be speaking on shame, I believe. And I think the thing that I'm always battling with is knowing that I am enough, that I'm exactly where I need to be, that all is truly well. And that's what this song's about. I am exactly where I need to be. I need to be exactly where I am. I am a blessing manifest, and I can undress the moment naked. Time unwinds, bleeds my mind, and from within I find that kind of beauty only I can find. I am exactly where I need to be. I need to be exactly where I am, surrendering so willingly to be the perfect me inside this now and truly. How else could it be? Destiny, she blesses me. Destiny, she blesses me. And when I try to fight or run, I only wind up back at square one. And when I think I know what's best for me, well, fate, she takes me back to exactly where I need to be. I am exactly where I need to be. I need to be exactly where I am, divinely timed and shining brightly. Yes, I believe that there's a purpose just for me. Yes, I believe that we are a light and we shine infinitely. Yeah, I am exactly where I need to be. I need to be exactly where I am. I am not aimlessly existing. See, I am in perfect harmony with universal energy, and I am truly free when I accept my own divinity. Yeah. Check it. Look at me closely. Tell me exactly what you see. If you are paying attention, you will now begin ascension of the mind. Why? Well, because if you look at me just right, you see a kiss. It took a kiss to make this breath exist. The intersection of my mother's and father's lips to touch, twist, perfect what came next to produce me. Yes, look at me and you will see the breeze. The breeze it took to shake the leaves to make my mother's hair move. My father dare touch it and say, please, may I have a kiss? Yes, the breeze made me exist. And if you want to get even deeper into this right now, when you look at me, you will see a big old cloud. That's right, the cloud it took to form the storm, to make the breeze, to shake the leaves, to inspire the lip lock. Yes, a raindrop will pop out of these words. You heard me right. Look at me close enough, you see a dark, stormy night. And what is night? Well, night ain't night without its polar opposite of sunlight. So if you watch the way my hands sway, you see the light of day. And every day is a testament to the sediment of the earth's core, its ever-spinning enormous force. So when you look at me just right, you see a spark of the source. But the most fascinating thing about this, and it's true, you look at me just right, you see you. It's only what you perceive, how you believe, the space between you and me that creates this magnificent reality. So when I sing, you can feel it. When I cry, you can heal it. When I speak words, you can be the words I speak by singing them with me. Peace, love, free. Peace, love, free. Peace, love, free. You can sing it out. Peace, love, free. 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 And when I try to fight or run, I only wind up back at square one. And when I think I know what's best for me, well, love takes me back to exactly where I need to be. And when I am all alone and full of fear, I just remember the rising sun. always appears. And every day, miracles, miracles that I see. Well, you take me back. You take me back. You take me back to exactly where I need to be. I am exactly where I need to be. I need to be exactly where I am. Yeah. I am exactly where I need to be. I need to be exactly where I am at Unity San Jose.
Thank you so much, Amy. That was so beautiful. It's addicting. Each time you listen to it, you discover something more in that song. So thank you for bringing that wonderful creation to us today. So I'm so happy to welcome again Reverend Savanna.
Hi, everyone. It is so good to be back with you. First, before I jump in, I have to say, I am so excited that Amy performed during the service with me. I don't know that we've ever done it together. And I know I've known Amy for a very long time. We've been doing this for quite a while. And one of the things that wasn't said about her is she's done so much in her career, but she's also worked with our teens, our young adults in the New Thought movement. She was a spiritual leader for some time, so you might even bring her back in for a talk. And she's blessed my life in ways that she may not even know. So I just wanted to say that to you first, Amy, before I jump in here, because I got you here. All right. So today's talk is all about the New Thought trap. And per usual, in every single talk that I give, I want to make this philosophy relevant at a time where we're trying to navigate a lot of change, a lot of uncertainty. I always want to see, okay, how can I bring the principles, that we teach within New Thought into my real life? And what does that dance look like? And Amy really set this up really well in that song, because some of the lyrics within it, the ideas and themes of it, have to do with what I want to address today. There's no question that unity, the science of mind teaching, this New Thought philosophy has changed the lives of, thousands of people. It's saved many people, many of us who are in this room right now. And we consider this teaching to be a liberation theology. It's a theology that gives the power back to the individual spirit, back to us, that tells us that we are not born in sin or separation, but that we are inherently divine beings with the ability to co-create and to have the life that we desire. It's a theology, as we know, of oneness, of unity, and it tells us that love is the greatest power that there is, that the God of our understanding, or whatever name you might use for God, is within us, and that we have dominion over our thoughts and our attention. It tells us that we are loved, we are valuable, we are connected to this source that is creative, and that there is so much empowerment in that. And as a child, you can imagine, I was 16, so I wasn't quite a child, but you can imagine, as an adult who often washes up on the shores of this philosophy, many of you might have said, well, it felt like I was home the first time you were ever introduced to these concepts and these ideas. It was that thing that was missing in many of our lives. It was that thing that pulled us out of utter despair and separation. It was the thing that allowed us to know that we matter. But it wasn't going to be without some sort of personal ownership and responsibility. And it wasn't going to happen without some bravery. I think, though, that it is a slippery slope, in that our teaching can be a theology, considered a theology of privilege. Ernest Holmes, the founder of the science of mind teaching, his audience was primarily open-minded, white, middle-class, progressive Christian folks in New England. And, on some point on the journey, for me personally, as I was studying this over the last 20 years, being engulfed in it, I knew from a teen that it made me feel so good. Every teen camp that I went to had me addicted to this feeling of love, with my peers, of being accepted by others, by telling me that I was amazing and that I had this spark of divinity within me, that I was not broken. It offered me this beautiful perspective on life, opportunities to travel the world, to teach this philosophy to thousands of people, to give people this sense that they're not alone and that there is something powerful within them that wants to create and to become more and never less than our authentic itself and that divine nature of us. And the part that isn't always talked about, that I want to talk about today, and it's the part that isn't always considered, is the human part of life. The questions that we might have, like, how do we work with our pain? How do we work with our grief? How do we reconcile the suffering and the poverty in the world? How do I come to terms with my feelings of being not enough, of not enoughness or stagnation? There have been moments in my life where I've traveled to different countries in the world where I would see, a person that had a different, class than me or privilege, I being where I live, have the ability to leave it, to go elsewhere. I can turn my eyes away from the atrocities of the world because of the life that I've been given. And for me personally, this has always been a new thought conundrum to me. I've had students ask me this question, and it's always been something of deep reflection, because if we bring it down to the micro level, in the individual level in our own life, how do we address rather the collective shame that we have? How do we address the shame that we might feel within ourselves? This is why the works of Brene Brown and Glennon Doyle, Cheryl Strayed, Elizabeth Gilbert, all of these incredible feminists, this is why their work has been so inspiring and impactful for my life. And of course, my own body of work, because they don't bypass hard things. When I first became a new minister back in, I believe it was 2014, I was starting to lead groups more frequently. And I remember I sat down with a colleague of mine, the incredible Dr. Roger Teal, who became the senior minister at Mile High Church and was there for 35 years, I believe, a very long time. He's there a really long time. And it's one of our new, largest New Thought communities. And I asked him, I said, Dr. Roger, do you ever feel like an imposter? Do you ever feel like you're not adequate to teach all of this teaching? And he looked at me and smiled and he said, of course, Savanna. Of course, in my younger years, I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know how to run a church. He said, this is all part of the becoming and the growing. And I find that the tragedy of our teaching is that oftentimes we're not actually given permission or the compassion or the space to even be human, to question, to go off the path, to fall, to have negative emotions. And this is the shame trap that I am talking about. Just as evangelicals, and evangelists often are shunned for asking all these questions, right? I find that that's a similar feeling within our New Thought teaching, that if we are not good metaphysicians doing our work, if we are questioning everything we've ever been taught or believed about God and life, there is shame. We cannot uphold this religious science, this New Thought status quo. We might front even that we have our lives together, that we have, really great spiritual practice and that we're totally prayed up, when deep down there's another story going on. And that is the story that I want to know about. One of the greatest gifts I think of our teaching is found within the struggle, within our pain and grief. It is within those moments where we are often on our knees. And it takes just one person to believe in us, to tell us that we matter and we make a difference. It is found when we are in the fire of life. It is that thing that Araya Mountain Dreamer talks about in her book, The Invitation, where she says it's doing what it takes to feed the children and not shrinking back. The reason I bring all of this up is because, as I was saying before, I don't want to talk about something that I'm not living through. I don't want to talk about this teaching in a sense of just bypassing all of the hard things, especially if I'm personally going through it as well. I want to use it as a teaching, tool, right? And so I have been myself experiencing this. The entire world has changed because of this pandemic. The entire New Thought Sunday experience and the way we do church has changed. And I don't know if we've even caught up to what that actually means as a New Thought organization and teaching philosophy, as a business, as a body. I don't know if we have yet accessed that grief that we are all carrying. I think it's like we've been feeling it for so long. And for me, I was at a point in my life around, I think it was January this year, where I had felt like everything I had worked for over the last 20 years, everything I had started to become, like my business had launched, everything was going so well. And then it completely fell apart all around me. And I felt like I could not reach out for support because of that shame of, you're a minister. You should know how to get yourself out of this. Did you call your practitioner? Did you call a colleague? And it was the fear and the shame of that made my resistance even greater, to the point that I felt completely alone, not sure who I could talk to, and questioning my purpose, which for all of us, I think there are moments in life, when we fall, when we're questioning our purpose and the meaning of life, those really big questions. And yes, I could have called a friend. I could have called a colleague and someone who knew, who I knew who could love me the best. But my pride was so great. Have you ever let your pride get in the way? Get in the way of maybe the support that you could have had? I've been, as I said, in this teaching for 20 years, and this is the first time in my life that I have ever questioned everything about it. My connection with life, my connection with God, my purpose. Am I aligned? Am I doing what I'm meant to do? The Buddhists would say, this is beautiful. This is the path. Let go of everything that you think you know. Let go of all of your attachments. And the thing is I didn't know how to hold my grief. I didn't know how to support a community and others when I too was going through that grief. At a time where I was striving for my greatness, striving for that business to launch, to fulfill my purpose, to fulfill my dreams. Faith is easy when everything is going really well. Faith is easy when everything feels, aligned. But sometimes we have to brave the wilderness. And that wilderness, I have found, can be a very lonely journey. Back in the old days, and I say old days kind of like the 80s, because for me, that was kind of the old days. But the old school New Thought communities, the religious scientists specifically, we are conscious, that they used to have these yearly conventions. And I used to hear about stories of people in the organization where they would literally at these conventions fight with each other. And so we're over here teaching about oneness and unity and love, and we're fighting. And if you recall, the religious science organization actually split into two, which is, separation. And they would throw around these statements like, what was it in your consciousness that created that thinking? And it was just so shameful. It was so filled with shame and guilt, this guilt for not having right thinking. We fear, I think, as metaphysicians, as, unity people, as religious scientists, as ministers, as practitioners, as good metaphysicians, that I must uphold principle no matter the condition. I must release my fear and my shame and my doubt, and I must do all of the things. I need to meditate. I got to pray. I got to call my practitioner. I have to go to that AA meeting. And the thing about it is, it engenders the exact thing that we talk about turning away from, which is more shame. So then the question that I bring to us today is, well, how do I come back to that thing that I know or have always believed about myself? How do I come back to that? I am whole, I am perfect, I am complete, everything is truly working together for my good when I am in suffering. How do I come back to that? What do I do when I feel like it's just too much? I heard in this podcast recently, this author who I love, who I respect, who she said, I've been loved too well to ruin my life. I've been loved too well to ruin my life. This dream that I have over here, even though I haven't fulfilled it yet, and even though it feels like a setback, it's not going to ruin my life. I'm going to aspire for greatness, and then my job and our job is to evolve. And I don't get to decide how I'm going to get there. So that detour, that other job that we took to fund the dream, that other path that we really did not plan, sometimes what I'm realizing is we need one story to get to the next story. We need this story to get to another story. Have you ever had this experience in your life where you had your heart and your eyes set on this goal and it was over here, and then you just distracted yourself with other things while you were trying to do the thing, like starting a business or writing a book or attracting the perfect relationship? This fear of not being great creeped in, and then this self-sabotage took over. And the question I asked myself is, well, what is it that matters more? The author, Cheryl Strayed, I don't know if you've heard of her work. She's incredible. She talked about this, in her own story, saying that she had this idea years ago that she wanted to write the great American novel. But instead of writing the novels, like she would sit down and then she'd distract herself with something else. And she said this, she's quoted of saying this: what matters more, writing the great American novel or a novel that may or may not be good? Accept what is true now. My dream is to write a book, and the only book I can possibly write is the one I wrote, and it's none of my business if it's good or right. So we let go of the greatness, and what happens after is none of my business. And so the pursuit of the thing sometimes keeps us from the thing when we are distracted over here, because often what is driving us is external, and we want to be driven by what is inside of us. And so I don't say all of these things about shame to, provoke some sort of pity for me, but more so to shine the light on the condition. We say when we do, a prayer treatment or a spiritual mind practice, affirmative prayer, we say to turn away from the condition. But sometimes we cannot get from, deep grief to joy in one leap of consciousness. Sometimes we must first get to willingness or even hope. And so maybe the condition is the thing that catapults me into wanting to become more. Maybe, as Amy sung about, maybe it's about making it okay that we are exactly where we are, that it's okay to feel what we feel. It's okay to feel all of the emotions because it's all temporary. Years ago, back in 2015, I launched this 23 city speaking tour because I had been living in Egypt at the time, and I was living there during the revolution. And I remember the name of the workshop that I did from city to city was called The Sacred Amidst the Shadow. And it was all about shadow work, how to find the light and how to find the sacred in the midst of, the darkest of places. And what I know now, because there's always, retrospect and looking back, is that I didn't really, really know what it meant then to know the sacred the way I do now. The sacred, I think, is there while we're sitting in our discomfort. It's there when we want to bury it, when we want to hide from it, when we want to run from our pain. The sacred is in those silent moments of introspection when we're facing a health challenge, when we've lost someone, when someone has left us, when a relationship didn't work out. The sacred is sometimes there as that whisper or that gentle nudge in the breeze. And what I'm coming to know now, and what I want to impart to you in this message, is that every person on the planet, every minister, every practitioner, every human being has shame. We all have painful, angry, hard thoughts, and I am not alone in this, and neither are you. But what it means is that we get to practice radical acceptance. We get to practice accepting each moment, taking another step, and then we take another step. It is literally sometimes that one step at a time. We can do the hard thing that is being placed upon us, even if we can't believe that it's working for our good, for us, that a higher power has got us. We just take another step. I call them, the baby steps. So it is totally okay to be wherever you are. It's okay to question. It's okay to not know what's next. It's okay to feel sad. It's okay to feel everything you feel. It's okay right now, as it is, to be wherever you are. Because the thing that you're meant to do will become clear to you, even and especially if it's not amazing. That is what I've come to know, is that we can just say, come what may. Come what may. Maybe you've outgrown the life that you've been living in. Maybe it's time to come out of the box you've been living in. Maybe you've outgrown the relationship with the job that you're in. And that can feel really dark. It can feel really uncertain. Maybe you're growing into something more amazing now. And so if you find yourself falling into that shame trap, which I know we all do, I suggest that we just give ourselves a little bit of grace, some inner peace. We remind ourselves that the Dalai Lama has his bad days too. And it's sometimes about leaning into what Glennon Doyle, who wrote the book Untamed, she calls it the knowing. And we have this too within our teaching. We lean into the knowing. She explains it like this. She says, if I'm willing to sit in the stillness with myself, I always know what to do. That the answers are never out there. They are as close as my breath and as steady as my heartbeat. And all I have to do is stop flailing, to sink below the surface and to feel for the nudge and the gold. And then I have to trust it. No matter how illogical or scary the next right thing seems, because the more consistently and bravely and precisely I follow that inner knowing, the more precise and beautiful my outer life becomes. And so how do we know what the knowing is? Well, when a moment of uncertainty arises, we breathe, we turn inward, and we just sink. We feel around for it. We can do that in our spiritual practices. We feel around for the knowing, and then we do the next thing that just nudges us towards it. And then we don't question it. We let it stand. We don't explain it. We let it be. And Glennon says, we repeat it forever. And so I think to myself, you know what? I can do that. I can do that. It's just that thing. A dear friend and colleague said to me recently as I was going through all of this, he said, Savanna, perhaps you need to divorce God. You need to just fire her and find a new one. And I said, you know what? There's some great power in that. I think I'm going to sink in. I'm going to find the knowing. And I liked that idea. And so for me, and what I offer you is, I'm officially making everything okay. Try to find a way to make everything okay in your life. I can do it, and so can you. Let us take a moment to just go within, to just go into a prayer. We take that holy breath, connecting to the power and the presence of life that is everywhere, all the time, at all times. It is forever and ever present as my life, as the life of each and every one of us and those that are watching this. And so we remember that love is the greatest presence that there is, that love and that power and that presence and that joy and that beauty and all of the other emotions that go with it are absolutely okay. That all of those are encompassed within this one thing that is happening all the time, which is spirit, it is life, it is energy, it is goodness. And that power is living and breathing and moving through each and every one of us at all times, especially in the times when we feel separate. and the times where we feel alone and afraid and lost and confused. And so I know that that power aids us, that that presence is right where we are, that we lean and sink into the knowing, making everything in our life totally okay. That when we feel a little bit of guilt and shame, we come back to grace. We come back to gratitude. We come back to being okay as we are with what we feel in this moment. And so I bless every single one of us wherever we are on the path. And I trust and know that we are all unfolding perfectly in the way that we were meant to. And so with that and more, I give gratitude. I give gratitude for this community, for all of the ways that we come together to make this what it is, to remind one another how beautiful and how amazing we all are. And so with that, I give thanks. I bless us. I release this into the activation of love itself, and I know it is already done. So together we say Ashe, and so it is, and Amen.
And so it is. So when I'm falling, I feel so high. And when I'm crawling and I wanna reach out for the sky, it's when I'm lonely, I can hold on to the truth. Yes, it's when I'm broken open, that's when the light comes through. Scrapes, burns, twists and turns, you might call me damaged. Nicks, cuts, dips and ruts, I've been bruised and bandaged. But every dark night leads to a new morning light, and all of my scars have turned me into a piece of art. Each fear, every loss and tear, all the hard goodbyes, those hits, all the dirt, all the grit, all of it has made me wise. Every dark night leads to a new morning light, and all of my sorrow gives me hope for a better tomorrow. It's how I'm falling, I feel so high, and when crawling that I wanna reach out for the sky, and when I'm lonely I can hold on to the truth. That is when I'm broken open, that's when the light comes through. Yeah. Ins, outs, screams and shouts, life is complicated. Oh, this is my wild ride, and I would not trade it. And every dark night, it leads to a new morning light, and all of my sorrow gives me hope for a better tomorrow. As when I'm falling, I feel so high, and when I'm crawling, that I wanna reach out for the sky, and when lonely, I can hold on to the truth. That is when I'm broken open, that's when, oh, it's when I'm falling, I feel so high, and when I'm crawling, then I wanna reach out for the sky, and when I'm hurting, I can be my best friend. That is when I'm broken open, that's when the spirit comes in. That's when the spirit comes in. That's when the spirit comes in. That's when the spirit comes in.
Thank you so much. Oh my gosh. Let's just stay in this sweet space, that this sacred space where this deep inner knowing resides, this sacred space that magnifies itself through our darkest times, as well as in our brightest times. So we celebrate that here as a community, in the power of this community to recognize that sacred within us. And right now, I'd like for us to settle, just coming fully into the present moment, in this place where there is no past, that's only our memory, and there is no future, that's just our imagination. So we're dropping in to this expansive present moment, feeling that expansiveness of this peace, love, free that Amy was talking about. It's within this present moment, right here in this community, right here and right now, that we're experiencing our divinity just opening up like a flower more and more, our awareness of our divine selves. And so as we breathe, let's just use our breath to, with each exhale, release any negativity, release any tension, release any stories. With each breath, feeling that more of that spaciousness and that freedom of what's really real and what's really important, that being you. Handing any troubles, any negativity, any situations that may be worries from your past or things you're concerned about the future, just handing those to spirit right now. Handing those to the God of your understanding, handing those to your divine self, your highest self. And we can let go. We can let go because we know that we are guided absolutely. We are tapped in to the abundance of answers and intelligence that will be the resolution of all things. With each breath, just letting go. With each breath, just trusting more and more. Trusting into the earth. Trusting into the arms of the God of your understanding, Mother, Father, God. So it's in this state with open hands and open heart that I'm receptive. Letting spirit run all the aspects of my life. Letting spirit express in me, through me, and as me. I'm aware that my heart is open wide. In this present moment. And so let's just rest into the silence of this awareness for a minute. So slowly bringing myself into the awareness of the present space. I'm so grateful for today's service, for today's message, for the music, for the insights, for the inspiration, and for this community. And so it is.